was one morning we were hungover, like a really bad one. I remember it was not good. And we went out for brunch, as you do, and they were like, get a Bloody Mary. And I was like, no, wait, a Bloody Mary? What, tomato juice? That sounds absolutely disgusting. I like olives, but I'm not having a Bloody Mary. Sure enough, I ordered the Bloody Mary. And I went from feeling like garbage to feeling on top of the world within half a glass. Again, one of those ones just so hungover.
Right.
With a Bloody Mary from Cargo Remote. And it
I
instantly,
remember the face.
Yeah. It's like, I'm dying. I think I had 2 or 3 of those Bloody Marys, and I was like on top of the world again, ready to go.
Competitive eating sounds outrageous, but competitive drinking,
I mean, sign me up.
Fucking go.
Welcome to an extra special episode of a Vietnam podcast with me, Neil Mackay, and my guest today, who had been a regular on this podcast since the very, very beginning, is Mischa Smith. Thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on again. Have you kept track of how many pods we've done together now?
Must be at least 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So no, I've not kept track. So this podcast, for those that don't know, is all about sharing stories of people connected to Vietnam. We started in 2019 just as a hobby, me in my front room. Very similar to this. You were, I think, the 3rd or the 4th guest at the time. And it's grown over the years from just sharing stories of people in Saigon to people all over the world connected to Vietnam. I moved here in 2016, thought I would be here for 6 weeks. That turned into 6 years pretty quickly, and it's now been 8 years. And despite its ups and downs and its challenges, I absolutely love this country. Now, over the last season, and this is season 10, incredibly, and the seasons are pretty arbitrary. People ask me, like, how many episodes are in a season? I'm like, sometimes 4, sometimes 10, sometimes 12, whatever I feel like. But we're just finishing up season 10, and for the first time ever, I have started to share my story with you, the listener. And I've never done that before. I've always interviewed other people. And as part of that, I shared my favorite places to go for food, favorite Vietnamese places, my favorite cocktail bars, my favorite happy hours. And of course, if anyone listens to this regularly, if anyone knows me, my favorite places to go for craft beer in Vietnam. And a lot of that is due to this man here, Mischa Smith, who is a massive influence on the craft beer community in Vietnam. But Mischa, we are not here to talk about craft beer.
No, I have other interests.
You're not one-dimensional, you're kidding me on. I do remember when I first started comedy, I talked to another comedian and I was like, I find it really hard to go from being podcaster to a comedian. And she's like, you can be multifaceted, like you can be more than one-dimensional. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really think about that. I kind of thought I just had to be one thing. Do you get that a lot? Do people just think of you and just think craft beer and that's it?
Yeah, of course. A lot of people are like, oh, you're the beer guy. And I'm like, sure, like if that helps you to define me in a certain way. And then also, obviously, people ask me, what do you like to do when you're not working, when you're not drinking? And I'm like, pretty much I like to keep drinking. Which actually
brings us to today's topic. It does. Well, so to give a bit of an introduction.
The king of the unintentional segue over here.
That was a great segue. The segue or the background to today's topic is about 12 years ago. I was in New Zealand with my beautiful wife, Adri, her sister, and Arika, who's briefly been on this podcast, on the Pub Crawl podcast. Podcast.
We should start a pubcast.
Pubcast would be pretty good. And one day, well, of course, we were just getting very drunk every single night, and meaning we were very hungover most mornings. And there was one morning we were particularly hungover, like a really bad one. I remember it was not good. And we went out for brunch, as you do, and they were like, get a Bloody Mary. And I was like, no, wait, a Bloody Mary? What, tomato juice? That sounds disgusting. I'm already giving away my heritage when I say tomato, but tomato juice. Tomato juice, I was like, no way, I'm not getting a Bloody Mary. That sounds absolutely disgusting. I like olives, but I'm not having a Bloody Mary. Sure enough, I ordered the Bloody Mary. And I went from feeling like garbage to feeling on top of the world within half a glass. Tomato juice and vodka, Tabasco, pepper, everything else in it. I was sold and a changed man.
That's an interesting, to give you my background. I never really liked Bloody Marys until I found one here in Saigon that I really, really liked. And then I was actually sharing that so much that I felt like maybe I was giving short shrift to other places. So about just looking back at my social media history, going back to like 2022, I just kind of started informally trying different Bloody Marys around town to see if there were any that were as good or better than the one that I had kept touting as the best. And like, obviously, you can't call something the best in the city if you don't do the research. It's like,
well, there's people here that have called themselves the best food with. I'm thinking of somebody's best pizza that was doing the round with definitely not the best pizza. But sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. That's funny. But then, I did find a lot of others that I liked. I've just, spoiler alert, I'm sticking with my old number one as the best one. Maybe you can tell the story better than I can, but I guess you just noticed what I was doing, and then you had.
Well, we covered.
You needed so you did the cocktail bars, we did
craft beer,
yeah,
happy hours, show my Scottishness,
yeah.
Which somebody that we know got annoyed with me on social media. That's saying
I have no comment.
Basically calling me out for portraying Scottish people as being stereotypically cheap. It's a stereotype. It was a joke. We are very generous people. Honestly, if you go into a bar in Scotland and they've never met you before, they will buy you a drink. Like they will not let you leave.
I'm booking my ticket.
Yeah. I mean, they're very generous people. It is just a stereotype, and I was just joking for comedic effect. Cool. It wasn't even a good joke. It's such a bad joke. Like, it's such an old stereotype.
Yeah.
But anyway, I joked about Scottish people liking happy hour. So I got in touch with Mischa and I said, hey, I want to keep doing these review, list episodes. They're really fun. And as I've been here long enough, as I told you, I've been here for 8 years. Mischa's been here for 10? 11. I want to bring to you more of what makes Saigon so amazing, so special, because I make the mistake of always saying Vietnam when I really mean Saigon. Saigon downtown, which I can see out my window from here, is not the same as 2 hours out in the rice paddies. It's a completely different place. Right. Here, there's amazing craft beer, amazing cocktails, happy hours. Well, that was another one. Someone got annoyed at me for promoting where to get cheap drinks because they like to spend more money when they come to Vietnam because it's such a poor country.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that exact comment.
I was like,
we should be stimulating the economy more by spending our tourist dollars at
it wasn't even that intelligent about stimulating the economy. It was just and
obviously for us, we live here. All of our money is spent in
economy. Yeah. I know. So that was a good one. But anyway, so I said to Mischa, let's do, obviously I had seen you on social media. You've been doing reviews of Bloody Marys.
Well, they were never formal reviews in as much as I was doing beer reviews with actual scores and everything. Yeah. I was just kind of doing very informal research. I noticed going back through some of this stuff, I have 2 different places that are owned by the same guy that were on the I posted on the same day. So some days I was having a few Bloody Marys. Some days I was only having one. Some of them there was months between, and like I said, I started in 2022, and now we're recording in 2024. So it's been very informal, but I do have my list, and I'm very solid on. You asked me for 7.
Yeah,
classic number.
Anyone listening go, why 7? Apparently there is research that 7 is the key number, so that's why you have a list, because people will more likely to click or listen to something. If you're listening to this right now, we gotcha, because you saw this 7. Apparently that's why. So that's why we're doing 7. And you've definitely inspired me. I've definitely seen your social media and been like, hey Dre, should we go for a Bloody Mary right now? Mischa, is that
well, that's some new restaurant. The guy just posted in one of the foodies groups. He's like, he's trying to be a little clever. English was a second language, obviously. He's like, I don't know if you guys have this feeling, but I know I get this feeling every time I post on here. My orders go up, so I'm posting. And I almost ordered from them. So advertising works, marketing works, social media works. Not 100% of the time, obviously, or else it'd be very easy. But if you read an article that said 7's the number, I brought you 7 with some honorable mentions. I think that's also. I think it's very common for these listicle type things to have the honorable mentions. But we didn't talk at all about the format, so I don't have them ranked 7 to 1.
Yeah, that's
I've got my number one favorite.
Let's do that last. Keep that.
Okay,
to the
build
end.
up to
Keep
it.
that in your
Okay,
pocket.
that's what I was going to think. Okay.
Before we did
That's
get
what I was
started,
going to think.
I wanted
That's
to
what
ask,
I was thinking. Sorry. Go ahead.
what makes your perfect Bloody Mary? What are you looking for? You must love podcasts if you're listening to this. Do you want to start your own one or you already have one? Then follow Smarter Podcasting to get expert advice from me, Neil Mackay, the podcast guy. Since 2019, we've worked with over 40 podcasters, produced over 700 episodes, and helped many podcasts get to the top of the Apple Podcast charts. And right now, I'm offering you a professional edit for just $27. Click the link in the show notes.
So for me, like, so knowing that we were recording today, I was thinking about that, and also I had one last night on my way home, just as a refresher to see if it was going to be on the list or not. And I won't name the place because it's not going to be on the list. It wasn't. It was just way too spicy. It wasn't the only problem with it, but that's the thing. Like, for a Bloody Mary, like you want it. You want a kick. Like you want that spice. That's part of getting over the hangovers. Like not just the vodka and the tomato juice, but also like that kick from the Tabasco, the Worcester sauce, the salt and pepper, obviously. But also you don't want it too spicy because you can always make it more spicy. You just ask for a bottle of Tabasco. You can't. Once it's spicy, you can't be like, "Can I get a chaser of tomato juice to like
I've definitely, I
chunk
remember
this up a little bit?"
we ordered the curry and this was in New Zealand and me and Adrian were like, no, make it spicy.
Right.
They saw us have one bite in our faces. They actually had to bring us out yogurt to make it milder because we were like dying. So you do have to be careful.
So yeah, you want, obviously, like, you know, it's at the end of the day, like craft beer, like anything else, it's about the flavor. Like how do the flavors come together in your mouth as the drinking experience? So yeah, like spicy but not too spicy. For me personally, I noticed while I was going over the list that bacon was not as essential as I assumed it would be. Some of these have bacon in them, some of them don't. Obviously, with a Bloody Mary, you always have the celery. You mentioned
Which I
olives.
take out right away. I hate celery.
Oh
I
yeah, that's
cannot
funny. No,
stand
you mentioned
it.
olives earlier. I don't like olives, so like I always offer my olives to someone else if the Bloody Mary has it. But the celery, if it's as long as they're not using like shitty old celery, no, I'll like take a few bites of the stock. I like it. But yeah, you want to
Let's dive into it.
dive in? So
I also want to add, thinking about like some of the comments that have been posted on social media before, have you ever felt like a bigger wanker than right now that we're about to do a list of our favourite Bloody Marys in Saigon?
I didn't feel that way until you mentioned it, and now I'm very self-conscious.
So go for it. What are our top? I know I've had a few of these as well, I would imagine as well, and I've had some really good Bloody Marys.
Right. So again, the
here in Saigon.
first four are going to be in no particular order,
Right.
and then I've got like the top three.
Sounds good.
Okay, and I did consciously try to not make this too District 2 centric.
Thank you, yeah.
Because-
Because then you'd be a real anchor if it was all in District 2. I can see the comments already. You never leave Towdane.
Let me see. One,
Which is a little bit true.
3. Only 3 of the 7 are in D2.
Oh, nice. That's pretty good.
Okay. So let's start with one in D2 then.
Go on.
So I don't know if you've been to Bardo.
Only once for a comedy night.
Okay, so yeah.
And I saw 3 white women get chucked out. It was hilarious.
Fair. Not relevant. to the
Not
conversation.
relevant, but that's my only experience of Bardo.
So yeah, Bardo, I don't know it that well. It's kind of on the other side of D2 from where I live. But I've been a bunch of times. I think it's mostly like comedy event space,
Music,
event
I think a
nights.
lot of-
Yeah, and then also they do a brunch. And some of our mutual friends who'll be watching this will know Ali Sordi, this Italian guy who used to live here. He's moved now, but his last station before leaving was at Bardo, and he had seen me do one of the Bloody Mary things, and he's like, "Oh, don't sleep on the one at Bardo. Like, go check it out." And I went, and it was fantastic. And it was a night. The tomato juice was very nice, and it just like very flavorful, bursting with flavor. And I was like, "That's on the list." You know, it's not the best Bloody Mary I've had in Saigon, but it's definitely
They're known for their cocktails in general, so they obviously know what they're doing.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, Bardo,
Thick tomato juice?
not too thick.
Because that's another thing. Sometimes you get it like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
gluggy.
Well, that was my other complaint about the one I had last night.
Right.
In addition to it being too spicy, was so thick.
Oh.
And also, I know that they usually serve it with bacon, but the kitchen was closed, and the server was like, "No bacon."
See, I do think
Like,
bacon
cancel
is...
it. Then no,
I do think
I'm really
bacon...
bitter. I'm going to name it before the end of this podcast.
I do think bacon is quite crucial because it gives that crunch and a little bit of saltiness.
Right. Well, and in fairness to them, like, yeah, I was ordering it at like 11 p.m. Not 11
Dare they
a.m.
not open the kitchen and make some bacon for you?
And he cooked bacon liner. Cool. So, is that? I don't know how we didn't really talk about how deep you want to go on these.
That's fine. That sounds good.
But yeah, I think we're just recommending places, right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. So then I had to get one shout out to District 7, my new home, my favorite part of Saigon.
If you're listening from overseas and you've not been to Saigon, District 7 is almost like another country.
No, so it's more like there's a bit of a rivalry between District 2 and District 7. Obviously, I live in District 2. The only people who really complain about District 2 are the people who live in District 7. And I had you do that meme one time, the Office one, show me the difference between these two pictures. D7 people hate D2 people because they hate us because they hate us. Anyway, come at me.
They're just the two expat districts, basically. We're
yeah,
predominantly expats. And I've said this many times before. When I say expats, I don't mean us white guy expats. There's Korean, Japanese, Indian.
So many Koreans in District 7.
So many Koreans. Many Koreans in D2 now as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot more than
expat
there
just
used to
means
be.
somebody not from Saigon who's here temporarily. Maybe that becomes a bit longer. But anyway, the two districts are pretty similar. They're just kind of far apart. And the joke is that District 7 is very far away when it's not that far away, really.
Not really. No.
But kind of.
No.
Anyway, we're on to number 2.
Yeah, Malt South, District 7.
Malt South is good.
They do great brunch there. They do a great Bloody Mary. Bacon 100% included. There's nothing like particularly like noticeable or stand out about it. It's just a really classic Bloody Mary, perfectly executed. And yeah, it's part of their like free flow brunch deal, and I've had it multiple times.
Well, you brought that up and I was going to ask a question. Can we talk about that? Because I think...
cannot talk about free flow. No, that would make us cheap. No, sorry, guy.
So for anyone, again, overseas who doesn't know, when I first came here, I was like, free flow, what does that mean? It just means, you can drink normally in a limited amount of time.
Is that not a term?
Not where I'm from. Never heard that until I moved to
baby.
Saigon. Is that a thing in Canada?
Oh, yeah, free flow, yeah.
I don't think it's a thing in the US, but I don't remember. I lived in the US. I don't remember ever hearing it.
But yeah, I mean, all you can drink. Free
all
flow,
you can drink.
It's the same thing, yeah.
And so as I've gotten a bit older, I've not matured in many ways at all, but one way I have matured in the last few years is I've actually stopped doing free flows because I've realized they're just not good news. For me especially, and for most people, you try and get your money's worth, right? So you pay $1 million dong, for example, about $50. You're going to try and drink that amount of alcohol. You end up too drunk, don't have a good time. Or you probably have a good time. You will have a good time.
You have a good time in the time. It just ruins the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
The rest of your night generally gets ruined. The next day definitely gets ruined. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I would actually just rather spend $1 million dong if I'm going to spend that and just pace my drinks over 4 or 5 hours rather than trying to drink that within 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to you put this to the test one time, did you not, at Malt South?
Yeah. So they have a, I don't know if it's the same deal now because the ownership did change a little bit.
Because you did it. Like we're not offering this anymore.
No. They're actually making off like bandits on that deal. I was there with a few friends, and someone's like, well, let's put it to the test. So it was like one brunch item and free flow of like a small list of cocktails and all the craft beers they had. So, and mimosas, Prosecco, but they would only serve me 2 drinks at a time.
I remember seeing the picture.
Well, that wasn't a free flow thing. That was just me being an idiot. But for the free flow, they said because of the rules and the timing, it was their policy that they only serve 2 drinks at a time. And we're like, okay.
Very responsible.
So we had someone, the accountant basically, like keeping track of how many drinks I ordered, what the menu price was for all those drinks, and how long it took me to turn a profit on the free flow deal.
Because it was 2 hours, was that, if I remember right?
It was either 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the best free flow deal in town, and I'm praising the quality of their products and then calling them out a little bit on the deal because I had to power through those hours to get into the profit. And it was either a Saturday or a Sunday brunch. And yeah, the rest of my day was ruined So like, I got my money's worth eventually, but like I'm a drinker. You'd have to be nuts to be like casually like, oh yeah, let's do that. Like I was going for it, and yeah, they didn't have to cancel the deal. They're making off okay on most people who order that free flow.
On a quick sidetrack, my favorite, when I say favorite, I mean the opposite. Free flow deal is free flow tacos. I saw this recently, and it was like free flow tacos. I think it was 350k. I can't remember where it was. 2 hours free flow tacos.
Yeah,
and it's like 50k a taco or something. So I'm like, that's 7 tacos. You need to eat 8 tacos to get your money's worth. I've seen you eat a lot of tacos actually, so maybe you would get your money's worth. I would only eat 2 or 3 tacos at once.
I'm generally not a big eater.
Yeah,
I'm a big drinker. Like, but I rarely do free flow food deals.
Why would you go somewhere you need to eat 8 tacos?
Yeah, like all you can eat chicken wings, all you can eat whatever. It's like, and if you're thinking about the same place I am, like Munch does it, and they do like Taco Bell style tacos. So like those are actually like, you can crush a bunch of those before you start to, like if I go and have 3, I'm like, just give me 3 more right away. Shout out to Munch. But yeah, like somebody was like, oh, we're gonna do an all you can eat wings thing. Do you want to come by? I'm like, I'll
have 3 wings.
Yeah, like 6 like tops. Like,
yeah, I did it.
No, I don't. I don't know. Competitive
eating.
Well, that's what a sicko I am. Competitive eating sounds outrageous, but competitive drinking,
sign me up.
Go.
I did it a few years ago at Outcast. They were doing a spicy chicken wing eating competition. And I'm just not a big eater and don't eat a lot.
Yeah.
But I wanted the wings. So I joined. I think I've told you this and you've made fun of me for being a cheap Scotsman. I joined and just slowly ate a couple of wings on stage and then was able to take the box. I think there's like 12 wings they put in front of me and was just able to take them back to my table because they're like, here, have all these wings. I mean, for one, they were so spicy. I'm not a good eater. Other people are just like, oh man, like taking the whole bit of meat off in one bite. And I just quietly, slowly sat there having a couple of wings.
Okay,
anyway,
so back on track.
Moving on to number 5. We're only at number 5.
4, I think.
4?
Yeah.
What have we done so far? Bardo?
Malt South. Oh, that's it. Yes, we're only on number
5.
Oh,
well,
3.
7, 6, 5.
Oh, if we're going counting down, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, making that more complicated than it needed to be. Number 5.
So I've got 2 here in District 1. We'll just do them kind of both together before we get to the top 3. The first is Layla. Very popular cocktail bar in District 1. It's always full. Hard to get a seat some nights. The bartenders are amazing. They've got a massive back bar. They know how to do cocktails.
As featured on the episode I did of Top Cocktail Bars
we've
in Saigon.
Go
back and check that one out.
Yeah, you've talked about Layla before. So I just revisited my photo from the last time I was there. They actually do a little bit of beef jerky instead of bacon for the garnish.
I don't think I've tried their cocktail. They're Bloody Mary.
Well,
I'm normally there.
It's one of the 7 best in the city. I promise you.
I'm normally there at the time where I have an espresso, a caramel espresso.
Right. No, it's
another episode.
And honestly, I think I only had the Bloody Mary there for the purposes of research. I normally at Layla I would get, gin martini or something. But I did. I was there, and I hadn't tried it yet, and I know how good their cocktails are, so I assumed it would be one of the best. So yeah, again, nothing like crazy unique about it. It's just a classic Bloody Mary, really a classic Bloody Mary, really well executed. Again, nice juice, not too thick, spicy but not too spicy, just right in the wheelhouse. They're artists over there behind the bar at Layla. Yeah,
I'm just like, why did we not record this in each of these bars? Watch out for part 2 where we will go and drink all of these Bloody Marys.
So the other one in District 1 that I wanted to mention is Ministry of Men. It's at the Sofitel Saigon. It's connected to House of Barbard there. I don't know exactly what the deal is between the 2 companies, but it's just a really nice bespoke cocktail bar with a really awesome barbershop behind it. So obviously you can have a nice cocktail while you wait for your beard trim. But yeah, that was another one that was recommended to me by someone else, not necessarily a place where I would think to have a Bloody Mary. But yeah, because someone else saw me posting these Bloodies, they were like, oh, you got to try the one at Ministry of Men. And I'm so happy I did. Again, just another like because the bartenders are so good, any cocktail they're going to make is going to be amazing. So they just, nail these classic cocktails with precision and perfection, and had to be on the list.
I've been there once, but I can't remember what I had. All right, so let's move on now to the vaulted top 3.
We're going to the top 3.
Top 3.
I'm glad I took notes because, again, like I said, the number 1 was never in doubt. Number 2 and 3 are the examples that I mentioned before of the ones that I had on the same day. 1 in District 2, 1 in District 1. The first one I had was in D2, and my note on the post was, this is a close second to my number 1. And then my note on the post for the one in D1 was, this is an actual contender to be number 1. So the top 3 are all very close together. They're all amazing. My third favorite Bloody Mary in Saigon is at Wkend.
Ooh, nice. Which is also owned from Layla, right? Same owner as Layla?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is he's got 3 in the top 7. So,
so we know
some
this
people
is
are
Derek,
gonna,
right?
Jay
Jay
Moore, yeah. So some people are going to accuse me of bias, but I just...
he's good at what he does.
Real respect's real, yeah.
Yeah.
The quality's there. So number 3 is Wkend. It's actually really unique. It's called the Orient Snapper. It's not even called a Bloody Mary, and they use gin instead of vodka. So I'm kind of cheating putting it on the list, but it's...
If it's tomato juice, it's a Bloody Mary.
Exactly. That's how I feel. Like you can do a tequila like a Bloody Maria. So why not do a gin called the Orient Snapper? And I'm still putting it on the list because it's fucking awesome and everyone should try it. Wkend's a great brunch spot in D2. And yeah, that's really the most unique selling point of it, is that it's their take on a Bloody Mary because of the gin, and I'm a big gin guy, as you know. And yeah, I just remember the first time I tried it, I was like, fuck yeah, that's
nice.
That's one of the
something
best.
A bit different on the list then.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I gave it away already. There's 3 of Jay's places. So number 2, my second favorite Bloody Mary in town, is it's the Summer Experiment, which is a cocktail bar in District 1. And that one comes in a big wine glass. It's got the bacon. It's got, again, I threw away the olives, but it's, and again, it's just the quality of the ingredients and the quality of the craftsmanship of the people making it really elevated into something more than you would get at a diner or a dive bar, like where you're just like hungover as shit and you're just like, fuck, I need a Bloody Mary to like just feel awake and alive again. So yeah, so obviously that day that I had them both, I had brunch at Wkend and I had that one like as kind of a hangover cure. And then the other one was later in the day, like during cocktail hour after summer opened. I don't know if Summer Experiment made your happy hour list, but
no,
they have a really good one.
I'm laughing really hard
Dave
at Summer Experiment because they did make my cocktail bar list.
Yep.
And when I got to it, when I was doing the recording, again by myself, one of the first ones I'd done by myself, I realized I didn't have any notes for it or memories because I think we'd only been there once, and it was one of those moments where I really needed Adrian next to me. So
right.
I was in the flow of the episode. I had it on my notes was Summer Experiment, and I was like, yeah, Summer Experiment. I don't really remember going there, but I know it's on my top 10 lists of cocktail bars to go to in Saigon. Adrian would be able to give more information on this. And then sure enough, Adrian later on is like, I think we only went there once. And I was like, I can't even remember what it looks like.
Neil,
I just know it made my
quality
list.
Preparation. Good job.
I know. I never have enough time to prep properly. And that was the one, not the one time, but that was a time I was definitely found out by not preparing. But it's a good, I knew it was a good place, and I knew it was Jay.
Yep.
And I knew it was quality. So it made the list.
Yeah.
It was just scant on detail.
Right. Well, I'm glad I could flesh it out a little bit for you. Yeah, again, great cocktails all around, and literally one of the best Bloody Marys in town. So, do you have a drum roll?
Well, I was going to say before we unveil the top Bloody Mary in Saigon,
which obviously anybody who knows me knows what it is.
But but there's a lot of people that listen to this that don't know.
There's a lot of people listening to this.
Let's recap from 7 to 2.
Okay, so we started with Bardo in D2, and then we swam over to D7 for Malt South. In D1, we had Ministry of Men and Layla. That's 4. And then the top 3 was Wkend, Summer Experiment.
And number 1.
You want to do the honorable mentions first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, do some honorable mentions.
So a few honorable mentions. As I was going through my social media for the notes, The Bricks is another brunch-ish. They're open for dinner as well, but I think of it as a brunch place in D2.
It's because of the bricks I stopped doing free flow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I did the free flow there and I was this was not necessary.
We did theirs as well. We took advantage of that one. We got in the profit break.
Yeah, it's like just non-stop champagne. I was like, I don't need this much champagne.
Yeah. But I definitely had them. I'm pretty highly rated.
It's a great place.
Yeah, Birdie in Pham Viet Chan. Of course, any cocktail related content should include Birdie. And as you would expect, they do an awesome Bloody Mary. This is Saigon's 7 best cocktails, but I did want to shout out Cargo Remote in Moyne. My buddy Rod was very proud when he saw I was doing the Bloody Marys. He wanted me to try his.
Nice.
And it was really, really good. And part of that was the setting and, being out there in Moyne up at Cargo.
I've got some great memories and great pictures from when we did New Year's there a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you were there.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's a great picture of me from the next day, and I'm, again, one of those ones just so hungover.
Right.
With a Bloody Mary from Cargo Remote, and it
I
instantly,
remember the face.
Yeah. It's like I'm dying. I think I had 2 or 3 of those Bloody Marys, and I was like on top of the world again, ready to go.
Another one I wanted to mention is not a cocktail bar, but it's a steakhouse, and the owners have some cocktail bars as well, so you would imagine the cocktails would be good. Stoker, they have locations in D1 and D2. I'm pretty sure I've only actually had a Bloody Mary at their D1 location, but I'm not sure they're the same at both. But that was really good. Just didn't quite make the list. Yeah.
So
number one, Flying Away, Lubu Mediterranean restaurant in District 2. It's the first Bloody Mary I'd ever had that I really loved, and the key for me that I found out from Jim, the owner at the time, he's since moved on. Is that they use a mixture of fresh tomato juice and the packaged stuff. He said if you use only fresh, it's just not going to be too bitter. Like there's no sweet, so you need some of the sweetness from the prepackaged tomato juice. But the fact that they squeeze their own, and that's the majority of it, it does make it a little thicker, but like not too much. And the level of spice is just right. Some of my friends said it's too spicy. I don't like spice that much. It's not too spicy for me. No bacon, unfortunately, but you can order a side of bacon if you want. We do often. But yeah, it's my go-to. It's the one I always go back to. If I'm in town, it would be rare that I wouldn't have brunch at Lubu either on a Saturday or a Sunday, at least once. Usually with a group of friends. It's just a great spot.
And it's not even a cocktail bar.
No, yeah, it's a restaurant. It's great food.
Number one.
They do great brunch, and they do the best Bloody Mary in town.
Again, just showing the stereotypical Scotsman that I am. You get a free Bloody Mary before midday with any brunch item.
On the weekends, yeah. On Saturday and Sunday,
Well, who goes for brunch during the week?
Well, you can get brunch during the week, and then it's buy one, get one on the brunches, which is an even better deal. Yeah. But yeah, before noon on the weekend, you get one complimentary Bloody Mary with any brunch purchase. And it's the best Bloody Mary in town.
There you go. All right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, join Patreon, become a Bop Saudale, join our community. So when we do things like go out and record and do a pub crawl or do a Bloody Mary crawl, or we've had shouts for a cocktail crawl, which will be so dangerous but so fun.
When you say cocktail crawl, you mean what would the logistics be? Like, would we pick a cocktail and do that at a bunch of places, or just pick a list of bars,
like visit the cocktail
your top
bars
7 bars, and just everyone gets whatever they want?
Yeah.
7 cocktails isn't too many for me.
Oh, well then, you heard it here first. So join the Patreon community. We want to bring together people who love Vietnam, love Saigon, love a Vietnam podcast. You can join for free, or you can chuck in a few bucks, whatever you want to do. We want to build that community. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Thank you very much, Mischa Smith, for coming on again. And also, I have a super, super amazing announcement to make. Mischa and I are going to be launching a new podcast soon.
Oh, are we telling people?
We can tell people, right?
I don't see why not.
Go on then.
We're both committed.
Yeah.
So you had asked me about maybe doing like a recap of a television show, and you thought it'd be interesting to do one that I've seen already and that you haven't seen. You'd watched it for the first time. I'd obviously rewatch to prepare for the episode.
Not just a show you like. I said a show you love. I started by saying, "What's your favorite TV show?"
Oh, okay, yeah. So I don't remember the exact words that were exchanged. But yeah, so did I give you a few options or did I just
There was a few,
pick one?
yeah.
Yeah.
But we settled on that one.
So we chose Deadwood because it's one of my top 5 favorite shows of all time. It's only 3 seasons, so it's not like I just actually rewatched Mad Men, which is 7 seasons.
Oh shit, I've never seen that. I need to watch it.
And and that would have been the other one, but yeah, 7 seasons
It's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment. And no slight against Mad Men, because again, it's one of my favorite shows, but I think Deadwood's a little more fun and more fun to talk about. We could have like deep conversations about Mad Men. And we can have deep conversations about Deadwood as well. We will, but it's a really fun show. It's set in the frontier times and the gold rush, and it's a lot of drinking, a lot of swearing. David Milch is just an absolutely amazing writer. So I'm excited. That's what we agreed on.
Get that
Deadwood.
started soon, so check it out. And are we going to go with the name? What was the name we said?
I suggested Chopping Wood
I like it.
because we're going to chop it up.
Yeah,
Deadwood, Chopping Wood.
Let's go for it. Look out
All right.
soon for Chopping Wood. You'll find it. You'll definitely hear more about it.
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers.
Hột gà nướng, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, bắp xào đây. Bắp xào đây.
I have some crazy, exciting, unbelievable news to share with you. I have just found out that a Vietnam podcast has been nominated in the Asia Podcast Awards 2024 for the best interview podcast. So I am absolutely buzzing right now. There are 61 finalists that they've whittled down from hundreds of entries. To be honest, I didn't really think much about it. I didn't think we would get nominated. There's so many amazing podcasts out there from Singapore, China, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, and then we are representing Vietnam for the best interview podcast. Now, the only thing is, it is a People's Choice Award, so you can go on and vote for a Vietnam podcast. That's the only way we're going to be able to win this. I'm so excited to be nominated because it was 3 independent judges that were judging all of the podcasts independently of each other, and they chose us as one of the top interview podcasts in all of Asia. So we are up against 9 different podcasts. So please, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. I know as a podcast listener myself, I barely ever go into the show notes, but please do it for me now. So go into the show notes, look for the link there, click the link. It will take you 2 seconds, scroll down, find a Vietnam podcast. Please vote. And then also please send me a message. Let me know. You can find me on Facebook, a Vietnam podcast, or you can get me on email, neil@7millionbikes.com. Or if you're listening on a podcast, then you can just find the fan mail button there. You can send me a message. There's so many different ways to get in touch with me. I want to hear from you. I want to know if you like the podcast, if you voted. And thank you so much for supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast, for supporting a Vietnam podcast. This year, we're on track to pass 100,000 downloads, which when you see these other podcasts in the world that say they have millions of downloads and they are out there, they are in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. They are the top of the top, the cream of the cream. We are in about the top 10 to 15% of podcasts in the entire world. But I think we are the longest running English language podcast in Vietnam. We've been going since 2019. And honestly, when I started, I thought maybe 10 people would listen. I could never have imagined that we'd still be going 5 years later. Never mind that I still live in Vietnam and that it's going from strength to strength, getting better and better. And not only did 7 Million Bikes podcast win the Great Company Award at the BritCham Awards, we are now nominated for the Best Interview Podcast in the Asia Podcast Awards for 2024. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. And please go and vote right now. The link is in the show notes. Cheers.